So what do you learn? What do you learn from your dad that you could pass on to your son and that we could all learn from?
Number one, when you have a father in the home, there's expectations. That's number one. From a child, you're going to have expectations. Um, Number two, you're not going to do what you want. You're not going to do what you want. One thing I learned from my father was just values of just learning how to be a man. Um, one thing I learned from my father was how to treat other men. You know, when
Hmm,
you approach another man, is how to treat him.
that's powerful.
Um, One thing my father always told me was never burn a bridge you may have to cross over later.
Hmm.
You know, my father was very good at talking to people. You know, he was very a charismatic person. You know, he was able to go in any room and strike up a conversation with anybody. You know, what I mean, he had that type of aura about him. So, one thing I learned how my father was just how to talk to people, how to treat people, how to connect with people. Um, these were just traits, but just general men things. How to talk to another man. A lot of times, we don't know how to approach another man. You know what I'm saying? So sometimes we get different responses because we don't know how to conduct ourselves around other men. And that's one thing my father was just really good at teaching was how to conduct yourself around other men. You know what I'm saying? So one thing my father was also, excuse me, one thing my father also taught me was pretty much having a certain work ethic, you know, being a hard worker, being a provider, being determined. Um, a lot of things, just never underestimate yourself. But one of the biggest things too, my father also taught me was just, man, just knowing yourself and being comfortable with yourself. You know what I mean?
Hmm.
Being a leader, that's a big thing. My father taught me. So just being a leader. So yeah, these were just qualities. I know for a fact that other people may have other what I'm saying teachers from their dad. So it just depends on the father that you have. You know
Yeah,
what I'm
man.
saying?
It's a very touchy subject for me. Like, I get emotional every time I hear somebody saying what you're saying because I never got a chance to learn that myself, and everything that you're saying, I'm learning it at a later age. You know what I mean? I'm learning it on my own. I'm I'm pretty sure that's how how your dad learned it. But I'm learning everything on my own. You know what I mean? And I never had a chance to experience that. So I get emotional a little bit. Like my eyes start tearing up a bit because just it's such a privilege to have a father to teach you things early on for you, somebody for you to role model.
Well, look,
Uh,
Mr. Brett, I want y'all to understand too. There's people who had fathers, but their fathers were so busy that they didn't really have a lot of time around the children.
mhm,
So
that is true.
you got people again. You have people that had their dads, but the dads were so busy trying to keep the house up, so busy maybe with the project, he was barely at home.
Hmm.
So so sometimes the child remembers more the mother teaching them because the mother was there helping with the homework. The mother was there probably going to the schools checking on the child, but the father was at work or too busy doing things. So the mother spent the majority of the time going to the schools, getting to know the teachers. So I mean, you have that instance too sometimes. So I mean, there are those cases where I mean, a child may have the father, and you have those cases too where the
Hmm.
pops was
That
just,
that is true.
they just spend so much time at work trying to take care of the home or bills or whatever other business, that the man is tended to. He just didn't have a lot of time in the home while the child, maybe the father was so busy he didn't really have time for the child's games, practices, stuff like that. So
Yeah, yeah,
I mean, there's those things there too. But
yeah.
and I always tell somebody, if you didn't grow up with your dad, the biggest thing is to do with your child that your father didn't get a chance to do with you.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I've had a chance to come across some people out there that didn't have their fathers, but they still able to manage to do pretty great. So
Yeah,
give yourself a pat on the back, man, because that's a big accomplishment, right?
yeah.
To have something that to do something that may not been that you didn't have that certain type of lesson or guidance come up, but you're still able to naturally fulfill that role.
Mm-hmm. Just the fact that, and if to whoever's listening, to whoever's watching, I just, that that's a great point right there, because just the fact that you are still around and you're still being there for your child, you know, doesn't matter if you think you're being a bad parent or you're not. Just the fact that you are there and you're still providing some love and some compassion to that kid, um, that goes a long way, man. And it could change a person's life forever just by you doing that part. That you already, just by doing that, you're already 10 times better than your father was if he wasn't there in your life. You already 10 times better than he was. And just by doing that, just by being there and showing love and compassion to your kids, I say, and that's one thing that keeps me motivated. Like I tell, you know, there are times I feel down as a father, but I always tell myself, you know what? I haven't left my kids. I'm still here. I still go to school meetings. I go still check out the daycares when I need to check out the daycares.
Mm.
Uh, I still I still help him do his homework. My father was not there for me to do that. So I'm already, no matter what I do from now on, I'm already being 10 times better than my dad was. So I'm already changing the generation. At least my downline. At
That's the
least my
biggest thing right there, man, Mr. Valley. Do
yeah.
again, man. Sometimes it's hard to get out of your funk. It's hard for a child to get past their trauma. It's hard for a child to. Sometimes it's hard for a child to give something to another child that they didn't have.
Hmm.
No, that's it's not easy, and and a child can deal with that emotional experience, that trauma for a while. It's not really an age limit where a child is going to say, okay, well, I'm all good, cool. It doesn't bother me no more. There is no age limit. There's no real uh, set time
Hmm.
that a person can say that they're fully healed of the trauma that they have experienced as a child. But again, it takes a lot of faith. It takes a lot of understanding. It takes some wisdom, and it takes commitment, and it takes endurance, because you to give something that you didn't have coming up, you're going to battle every emotion in the book. I'm talking about this. I mean, emotion on top of emotion
Yep.
daily, at night, when you wake
Hmm.
up in the morning. Sometimes you may go outside in the park or just walk to the store, and something may trigger something that you may have been through as a child. You know what I'm saying? So it takes a lot. It really takes a lot for someone to give something that they didn't have coming up as a child, and it takes a lot. So for men uh, who did the best to support their child, just to say, just being, hey, sometimes a man may not be able to live with that child, but just being able, when a child call you, you pick up the phone. and the father picks up. That's a big thing.
Yep.
You know, a lot of children when they were young, they couldn't call their father, and their father pick up the phone. You know what I'm saying? So, and a lot of dads are out there that may not necessarily live with their child, but they are still there. They're still there for that advice. They're still there for that emotional support. They're still there to hear that child and say, "Hey, son, you know, I'm just a phone call away. If any situation is going on, you just call me." So again, to give your child something that you didn't have coming up,
Yeah.
it takes a lot of going through your own obstacles in your own heart. It takes a lot of different emotional and battling, you know, because you're going to have to go through so many different things. You're going to have to process in your mind, and things you're going to have to try to suppress.
Yep.
You know what I mean? Not saying that, you know, they're fully going to be eradicated, but you just got to know how to control the feeling, control the emotion. And so I mean, again, man, you know, I always say, man, you know, faith without works is dead. You know, I just go back to, you really got to lean on to how God going to bring you through. You really got to put your trust in him,
Mm-hmm.
because only the Lord can bring you peace in your heart to make you bear through a situation.
Mm-hmm.
Only God has power to give you strength to bear a situation that's sometimes can be unbearable to deal with. Only the Father has that type of strength to give you that type of power to give you that. And
Yep.
sometimes people, we get it not knowing that he gave it to us. It's not until we get a little later in life, and then you're able to look back at some of the situations you used to go through, you say, man, God was really with me. You know what I mean? So I'm gonna say this: you know, to keep your family together, it's a fight. It's a fight to keep your family together, because again, it takes a lot of commitment and understanding. You know, the only book that can really teach you how to keep your family together is the Bible. But again, faith without works is dead, because you can read the
Mm-hmm.
Bible all day, but if you don't believe in it, and if you don't work at some of the things that's in it, not saying you're gonna follow everything, but at least some of the things. I mean, you know, we all get our own results. So just raising a
Yep.
family is not easy. So in 2023, you have our children. I mean, kids can be easily misstrayed away from philosophy teaching. So I mean, we come up in an era where broken homes seem normal.
Mm-hmm.
Well, it's normal to have a broken home now. It's nothing. It's nothing to raise children in homes that are broken. It's just, it's crazy, because we're living in a time where people do not have children no more thinking to raise these kids in the same house. And sometimes a person could go in there thinking that, but, and you know, there's times where, you know, stuff just happen. It doesn't, you know, necessarily play the way you plan it. Things just happen in some cases. So, but you know, even still, you know, just for a man to do his best to be in his kid's life, but sometimes there's women out there who don't make it easy.
Yeah.
Um, you know, that then you have that situation going on where, you know, a man is, you
Mm-hmm.
know, want to see his children, you know, the woman's playing games for whatever reason. So
Yeah.
um,
That is true.
you got that going on. So again, uh, for men who's doing their best, I understand it's not easy. You know, there's a lot of obstacles. There's a lot of things, a lot of emotion that men are battling, especially if a person didn't have their father. It's a lot of things. So may God be with those type of men, man, that can just have peace and wisdom and understanding, so they can continue, and that way they can give their child something that they didn't have. You know what I'm saying? An advisor, you know, a protector, a provider. You know, these things that a child needs from a father. So
I'm changing who I am. I'm making a new plan, rearranging